We live up in this thing. Yep, we is live. We live, we live, we live. What it do a minute with Mishi? Back live again. Make sure I share this out to everybody. You know, I bet y'all gonna be sick of me. They're gonna be like, damn, PJ, you all over the place. Yeah, damn right. Yeah, damn right. All right. Now, welcome to the chat. We gonna stay lit and live. You sent me some. I'm gonna have to check it out. Okay. Oh yeah, I think I got that. Um, I think I got that. I'm about to do those. Check out them high heels. Look at that ass. All right, let's get into it, man. There's a lot of people tripping about this Donald Trump and these Epstein files. And one thing I've learned is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is on his ass about the Epstein files, and a lot of people aren't happy with it. We're gonna talk a little bit about what Trump said about Jesse Jackson. We're just gonna touch on it for a hot second, because Jesse, he not one of those. He not one of those.
You want accountability? Fine. Be fair about it. At least speak honestly about these Democrats involved in these files. Reid Hoffman, Clinton. How about that shit? Everything's a bullshit attack on the Trump administration as if there was never any effort at all. That's bullshit. And again, for the 1,000th time, if you're waiting for me here to be like, oh, look, we're all here. Listen. Look.
Bro, social media.
You want accountability? Fine. Be fair about it. At least speak honestly about these Democrats involved in these files. Reid Hoffman, Clinton. How about that shit? Everything's a bullshit attack on the Trump administration as if there was never any effort at all. That's bullshit. And again, for the 1,000th time, if you're waiting for me here to be like, oh, look, we're all here. Listen, look, Fokker, check me out here. Eyeballs, listen to me. There are no fucking heroes in this story. You understand? Mistakes are made all the time. All you can do is try to correct them and explain them. And again, don't over-explain them. Just explain what you did and why. There are people who are going to disapprove you. That's okay. It's never comfortable for the person who's disapproved of. However, it's okay. And it's far better than the alternative, which is suppressing people's voices. But there are no heroes in any of these stories. There's just the truth. And now you can see it for yourself. But these liberal media people are full of shit. You want to...
Yeah, I think he's saying like the liberal media, when in all actuality it's all the media. Like you talking about massive cover-ups globally. We talking about globally, dog. We're not talking about just here in America. These are what they call them, crimes against humanity. And Prince Andrew has been arrested. They didn't say that he was arrested for what the victim has said that Prince Andrew did to them. He's being arrested for what But we're gonna get to that. But this guy's too far right to understand it, and he just stepped down from being working with the FBI. So a lot of people are happy that he's back, and a lot of people are like they kind of lost respect for him. And these are some of his supporters. You know, most of his supporters are, you know, right wing guys and gals. So a lot of them are looking for him to explain some of the stuff. Like, tell us the truth. Tell us the truth about what's been going on. What's in those FBI files? What is the FBI not releasing? He won't tell that.
This breaking news is wild, and you want to talk about corruption? This is it. Dan Bongino, a guy who spent years fighting for truth, just took the day off from his job as deputy director of the FBI. I know, doesn't seem like a big deal, but now he's reportedly thinking about resigning. Why? Because of Pam Bondi and her total cover-up of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Let that sink in. The DOJ puts out a memo claiming we're not going to get any more information about the Epstein files. Like, are you kidding me? And Bondi, well, she lied. She embarrassed Trump, J.D. Vance, Cash Patel, everybody over there. And now Bongino and Cash are livid. They are pissed, and they should be. This is exactly what we've been warning about on my podcast. The Epstein list is real, the cover-up is happening, and now we've got top insiders blowing the whistle. Pam Bondi needs to resign today if this is true. Better yet, Trump needs to fire her himself. No more courtesy, no more secrets. The American people want the truth. And if Bongino walks, you better believe that gives everything we've said even more credibility. There's something dark going on. You all believe it. I believe it. And it's time to burn it all down with the light of truth. Let's go, Patriots.
Florida ranks third nationally in calls for help for human trafficking, where young women and children are enslaved and abused. I knew we needed all hands on deck. Businesses and hospitals to spot it, our great law enforcement to stop it, and tougher penalties to punish it. We're taking on Medicaid fraud, pill mills, gangs, and more. And I'll fight to put human trafficking monsters where they belong, behind bars.
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.
Yeah, this was a 2014 ad campaign for Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, and it's circulating widely online following her recent testimony on the Epstein files. Okay, this ad was originally released during her re-election campaign and is being shared across all of the social media platforms as critics and supporters debate her past record and current statements related to the investigation into her financer Jeffrey Epstein, because Jeffrey Epstein is paying her. Looking at this. Yo, this is crazy. Initially, right off the bat, they're fighting human trafficking. Yet she's saying, why are we worried about the Epstein files when we should be worrying about the Dow Jones hitting 50,000 points yesterday? Remember that last week? Yes, miss, we're going to fight for human trafficking. Young ladies, let's go back to the beginning.
Florida ranks third nationally in calls for help for human trafficking, where young women and children are enslaved and abused.
That means these women from Florida were taken to Epstein Island. This is part of the problem. Yet, Pam Bondi today is more worried about the Dow Jones. See, this is why politicians are liars. They're fakers. And you can't trust them, because she sits here in 2014. She changed that whole stance. Once she got in office, she don't need y'all no more. She's a puppet. She's an absolute puppet for Trump. Yes, she is. If y'all don't believe it, well, all you gotta do is watch. That's all you gotta do is watch.
Donald Trump's DOJ under fire for more errors, bungling, or outright malfeasance in the Epstein files. Lawmakers, including some in both parties, criticizing the DOJ for the next step, also late, in its compliance with the Epstein transparency law. The DOJ sent a 6-page letter to Congress, this is required by that law, And it discusses the very controversial redactions and purports to list all the government officials and politically exposed person that are named in the files. That's one of the law's requirements. But the list doesn't really pass muster. With very little context, it includes some names that are exposed, including President Trump, Steve Bannon, Les Wexner, a billionaire tied to Epstein, and then others like Janis Joplin and Marilyn Monroe, which is hard to understand because it's not understandable. Those individuals, long deceased, do not fit in the congressional definition. So it raises the question, one, why are they on this list? And two, did the DOJ even proofread and correct this list? Does it care about even seeming like it's accurate and on the level? Heat continues on Attorney General Bondi. Even some conservative commentators have suggested that her time is up, that she should resign after a bonkers and combative congressional hearing where she really made it a point not to answer questions despite being under oath and that being part of the job of showing up for an oversight hearing. Lawmakers continuing to call her out.
This is a massive cover-up being led by the White House and the DOJ.
Do you still have confidence in Pam Bondi as Attorney General?
I don't think Pam Bondi has confidence in Pam Bondi.
The actual files that have been out in the public or that we've seen, they're overly redacted.
Ultimately, it's her who is responsible for the document production.
The last voice you heard is a Republican member of Congress discussing the obvious. Despite all of the lower standards or rank incompetence that has been on display in the administration recently, the Attorney General is responsible for this. And the letter's not accurate. And they already broke the law by being this late. And Bondi's been caught making several misstatements or lies about the Epstein files. So in a healthy, normal democracy, you would have accountability for that. Donald Trump's DOJ...
Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm going to claim my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Chairman, please stop the
clock.
Stop the clock.
The legislation.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you. Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not ask a question,
He
Mr.
doesn't
You're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific
question.
crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his state.
You can't just
Madam
ad
Attorney
lib
General.
stuff. I did not ask a question.
Meeting will be in order.
Donald Trump.
What does the crime in California have to do with the Epstein files? Absolutely nothing. But it's a great way that you can, deflect the situation. I understand, but Pam, you're missing the point. You shouldn't be defending when you should be answering the questions. You only get defensive when you know you've done something wrong. If you haven't done any wrong, then you shouldn't be defending it. You should be answering the question. Was there a crime committed? somebody did something. The woman's head was blown off. That said she was R-word by Sir Donald. But hey, maybe we'll get an answer out of somebody someday. But that day is coming.
From Europe, where the former Prime Minister of Norway is charged with gross corruption, which he denies, to the Emirates, where the CEO of one of the globe's largest companies has stepped down after the files released displayed communications with Epstein, including an email with a reference to, quote, torture video. He has not been charged with any crime. In the UK, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor faces new calls to be investigated for allegedly leaking state secrets. And in Hollywood, top marketing exec Casey Wasserman is selling his talent agency. He's not accused of a crime, but said he regrets flirtatious emails he sent to Ghislaine Maxwell that had become a distraction. Epstein spun himself a web of global elites, many of them named this weekend by the Department of Justice. 300 high-profile people that appear at least once in Epstein's emails. Some in direct contact with him, others just mentioned in news articles. Criminality is not implied. But Juliette Bryant said when she met Epstein in South Africa, surrounded by powerful people, it made her feel safe.
A girl approached me and said she was here with the King of America. He was here with Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker.
Bryant did not accuse the other men of wrongdoing, but said Epstein flew her to New York.
God dang, Chris Tucker, man. Chris Tucker in that thing. I want to know how deep it goes, because Chris Tucker, damn.
And then put her on a private jet.
As the airplane took off, he started touching me forcibly in between my legs, and I freaked out. I realized this is not a modeling opportunity. I've been kidnapped.
Bryant received damages from Epstein's estate.
In the last few weeks, Juliette, we've seen people like royals, prime ministers, people in positions of power face real consequences. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's amazing that they're all being exposed, but I just would like to see them all held accountable.
The pursuit of accountability continues. The House Oversight Committee will depose Ohio billionaire Les Wexner next week. The FBI labeled him as a co-conspirator in a 2019 internal document. Now, Wexner and all the men we mentioned deny criminal accusations. From Europe.
Now, I assume that a lot of these people will be, if they can't get them on this child sex trafficking, but tying these people to secrets, and stock trades and tax frauds and stuff like that, they're gonna tie them to something that's gonna wrap them up in litigation for the rest of their lifetime and possibly get some jail time out of it. But I think a lot of these people will wiggle themselves out of the truth of what really happened on Epstein Island, because there's too many high profile people in this to you're not going to get everybody. You're not going to get everybody, but you're going to get some. And there's people that are named in this that nobody knows. Like, think about it like this. If they would give up Bill Gates, and then there are other names that nobody knows that they're not giving up, think about how rich and powerful these people are, that they won't even give up those names. Those are the names we should be afraid of, because those are the real creeps.
It just smells absolutely rotten. Pam Bondi, her Valentine's Day present to America, was to say, that's it, no more, that's it, we're done now. We've released everything we've got, and there was going to be nothing more released. We're drawing a line under it. And this administration has been desperately trying, didn't want the files released in the first place. Congress then overruled the president and said, screw you, we've got to release these to the public. Now we've got Pam Bondi saying, you've had everything you're going to get, and it's not satisfying anyone. And the other thing that Pam Bondi did, which was just extraordinary, was to publish a list of famous names of people whose names appear in the Epstein files, whether they were relevant or not. So, for example, the singer Janis Joplin, who died of a heroin overdose, her name is in the Epstein files. Epstein was like 16 when Janis Joplin died. She played no role in any of this. But there are certain names. So, for example, Biden's children are named, but none of Donald Trump's children. But Donald Trump's children are named in the files as well. Why hasn't those names been released? Why have others been made public? It just smells absolutely rotten.
It's because it's a cover-up. It's an absolute, and it's, listen, because they went through it with a fine-tooth comb, they make sure that they released everything that would, and Donald Trump says that he's been exonerated. No one has been exonerated from anything. No one has been exonerated, but we will get the truth. But I believe, what I do believe is once these files are completely released, I do not believe that Donald Trump will go to prison. He may not have any communication that directly points him to, that ties him into sexual acts with a child. That may be his only out. And that's what I believe, because Donald Trump is a snake, and they slither, and he slithers just like a snake. So he may get off on this one. And I think the FBI would have done something. But I don't know. The FBI haven't done nothing to a lot of people. But one thing I know they won't do, I know they won't touch the president of the United States. I know that. Look, they went after Prince Andrew. Who is Prince Andrew? He ain't shit. He ain't, his brother's the king. Imagine if they got King Charles. That would be something. If they got Charles, oh, that would be something. Janis Joplin been deceased. Yeah, they said she died when he was 16. So how could that be? You know, I don't know. They just made stuff up, really.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician. You don't get to reclaim time when you don't,
bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question the way you want.
This goes over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it. Behind me, I have 3 documents from the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you, that was in the title, the victims' survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now, your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files, but he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see. because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr. Chairman. This is how this works.
Can I have my time back?
Mr.
Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from
All
Kentucky.
right, I'm reclaiming my time.
Can I give my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that?
Here's
a political
the question.
joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement
Gentlemen.
syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Gentlemen,
You need to get
I
on
want you to watch
these
the video.
matters.
Mr. Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I am reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because
time
this
when
is
you don't-
bigger than
when you
Watergate.
when I don't answer a question the way you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to know at what
transparent-
point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
The gentleman's time has expired.
This guy has Trump.
Oh man, yeah. Now she turning her back on him. This is Republican Representative Thomas Massey. You know, the Republicans, they fighting. They coming with it. Now Republicans are really stepping up. They're Republicans and Democrats. But that's the thing. This is not a Republican and Democrat fight. This is a fight for justice. This is a fight to bring down massive corruption. This is a fight to bring down one of the most large-scale, it's a large-scale and high-profile trafficking rings globally. This could get bad.
You're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your legacy unless you act quickly to change course. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been ordered by subpoena and by Congress to turn over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos in the Epstein files, but you've turned over only 3 million. You say you're not turning over the other 3 million because they're somehow duplicative, but we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there, and you also took down the Department of Justice's prosecution memo from 2019. So it's clearly not all duplicative, but even if it were, why not release it? Just release all the duplicative stuff. In the half you did produce, you redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress. Some of the victims had come forward publicly, but many had not. Many had kept their torment private, even from family and friends, but you published their names, their identities, their images on thousands of pages for the world to see. So you ignored the law, and even with over 100,000 employees at your disposal, you acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover-up. Convicted sex trafficker and groomer Ghislaine Maxwell opened the gates of hell to Virginia Giuffre and hundreds of other victims, as Virginia recorded in her remarkable book, Nobody's Girl. But when Maxwell was subpoenaed to come testify before Congress, you and Todd Blanche quickly moved her from a higher security prison to a minimum security camp in Texas, where she's enjoyed 5-star treatment, including catered meals, private gym time, and access to a therapy puppy.
Yeah, I want to say that this, going back to the last 5-minute video, that the Republican representative said that this has spanned over decades in multiple, through multiple presidents and multiple justices and all of these people need to be held accountable, because somewhere there was a cover-up and a lot of people decided that they wouldn't want to release these Epstein files. And some people say it's because Epstein was currently under trial. He had already taken some plea bargain for some stuff. There was a lot of stuff going on, and that was the reason a lot of this was sealed and that a lot of it never got out. But the word was out, but it just wasn't as big. And that's because it was sealed, and that was because it was an ongoing investigation. So right now, under this administration, multiple administrations, under this administration is now where they are finally able to release a lot of the files. And I think Donald Trump wanted the files released to run on, but I don't think he ever intended to get it cleared. And I think the push to get them cleared happened as seats were changed. And once that happened, they had to come up with Plan B. Now, they already had Plan B with Pam Bondi and Mr. Cross-Eyes, Cash Patel. Once they already knew that they were going to have to continue the cover-up. They didn't know how they were going to continue to cover up, but they have. So by not releasing all the files. Now, it looks very suspicious because it's under this administration. This could have happened under Joe Biden. This very situation could have happened under Joe Biden. I think maybe, just maybe, we would have a different outcome. But I also think that there will still be a major cover-up, even if it were Joe Biden. It doesn't matter who it was, because the powers that be, the real powers that be, don't want this list out. And one thing we haven't seen, like I said, it's some real money in there. I haven't heard anybody from the Middle East, and they like them porta potty people. So maybe this wasn't their type of freakiness, messing with children, but it was definitely an American and England type of deal.
Here's the interesting part. Okay, there were only 4 Republicans, only 4 of us that signed that discharge petition: Thomas Massie, myself, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. Now, what was happening in the background for months leading up to when we finally got it released is we were getting pressure from the White House. We were getting pressure from the speaker. Do not take your name off this discharge petition. And we're like, why? We're talking about the Epstein files. This is the ultimate promise. This is the ultimate way to provide transparency. This is the ultimate way to take it to the deep state and expose a whole criminal cabal of rich, powerful elites that I believe control everything. And guess what? Come to find out, they do.
They do.
And so we're like, why? So in the meantime, President Trump is calling it Epstein, the whole thing a hoax. Yeah. He's calling it a Democrat hoax. He won't have anything to do with the women. He still refuses to have anything to do with these women. So this whole thing is building. The women are saying President Trump did nothing wrong. They still say this. President Trump did nothing wrong. I know. Their attorney says Donald Trump's the only one that helped us. And guess what? That came out in the Epstein files, that he reported Jeffrey Epstein. Yep. So but Donald Trump is fighting it. President Trump is fighting it. President Trump is yelling at me. The White House is putting pressure on Nancy Mace. They take Lauren Boebert in a skiff. I don't even know what they said to her in there. They are attacking Thomas Massie, nonstop attacking Thomas Massie. And then one day I get a phone call from the president in September, and he is so mad at me. And he's yelling at me, and he's angry at me. And the fact he's like, you're supporting Rand Paul Jr., and he's chewing me out for signing my name on Thomas Massie's discharge petition to release the Epstein files. And I'm trying to tell him, Mr. President, they say you did nothing wrong. Right. This needs to come out. Right. And so we're having this argument. And he tells me on this phone call, he's like, Marjorie, my friends will get hurt.
That's it. That's it. I mean, that is it. Obviously, that's it. Because they're all in here. Imagine the phone calls. It's everyone. It's every single person is on this freaking list. They're all there. Every billionaire, heads of state, Larry Summers, Peter Thiel. They're all in there.
President Trump is yelling at me. The White House is putting pressure. Look, I got yelled at by the president over this. This is why he called me a traitor. He called me a traitor because I would not take my name off the discharge petition, because I stood firmly and said, no, we're going to release the Epstein files. I'm standing with women who were as teenagers. I'm not standing with the government. I don't support the cover up of all of this stuff, whatever it may be. And the president got mad at me, and he's told me, and I've said this multiple times, he told me his friends would get hurt. And that's what he told me. And then we're seeing a continued slow walk and cover up of a lot of this information. And I know that is why. I firmly believe that that's why it is being covered up. So when everyone's getting mad at Pam Bondi, or you can name anybody you want. The man at the top is Donald Trump. He's the president. And he's the one that was completely against releasing the files. When we started fighting to get them released, he's the one that called it a Democrat hoax. Look, I got yelled at by the president. That fight to release the Epstein files came directly from President Trump. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with that, but that is the truth. He fought the hardest to stop these files from being released. And the only reason that he signed our bill that we passed in the House was because he had to. It became a massive political problem. Biggest political miscalculation in Donald Trump's career was calling this a hoax, fighting the release of it, and having Mike Johnson, the speaker, refuse to bring the bill to the floor, to the point where Thomas Massie, myself, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert actually had to vote with all of the Democrats to get it released. I
don't think this would be such a big deal on Trump had he not ran on, he campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. I mean, we could go back and see how many times he's talked about, releasing the Epstein files. Let me get that in there.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has accused Donald Trump of withholding information, including his name and image, from the Epstein files. She is also accusing Pam Bondi of being complicit. Take a look at this clip.
Here's who you can prosecute. No, don't do this. I mean, they told her that the Epstein files, that fight to release the Epstein files came directly from President Trump. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with that, but that is the truth. He fought the hardest to stop these files from being released. And the only reason that he signed our bill that we passed in the House was because he had to. It became a massive political problem. Biggest political miscalculation in Donald Trump's career was calling this a hoax, fighting the release of it, and having Mike Johnson, the speaker, refuse to bring the bill to the floor, to the point where Thomas Massie, myself, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert actually had to vote with all of the Democrats to get it released, to get it, the discharge petition passed, so that the bill could come to the floor. Never forget all the other Republicans that voted finally to get these files released. They did not do it because they didn't do it, and they wouldn't have done it unless all of you people at home hadn't been losing your mind.
This is why Pam Bondi could not answer in the affirmative or the negative for a lot of the questions that were being asked. Because on one side, if she answered the question in the affirmative, she could get fired. But if she answers the questions in the negative, she could be lying to Congress. In fact, she may have already lied to Congress. She testified under oath that there is no evidence of Donald Trump committing a crime in the Epstein files. And there is evidence of people accusing him of the crime in the redacted Epstein files. What we need next is another discharge petition that says that any government official that is active in service right now needs to be unredacted, their image and name, and a special master needs to be appointed by Congress that reports to Congress.
Here's the interesting part. Okay, there were only 4 Republicans, only 4 of us that signed that discharge petition: Thomas Massie, myself, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. Now, what was happening in the background for months leading up to when we finally got it released is we were getting pressure from the White House. We were getting pressure from the speaker. Do not take your name off this discharge petition. And we're like, why? We're talking about the Epstein files. This is the ultimate promise. This is the ultimate way to provide transparency. This is the ultimate way to take it to the deep state and expose a whole criminal cabal of rich, powerful elites that I believe control everything. And guess what? Come to find out, they do.
They do.
And so we're like, why? So in the meantime, President Trump is calling it Epstein, the whole thing a hoax. Yeah. He's calling it a Democrat hoax. He won't have anything to do with the women. He still refuses to have anything to do with these women. So this whole thing is building. The women are saying President Trump did nothing wrong. They still say this. President Trump did nothing wrong.
I know.
Their attorney says Donald Trump's the only one that helped us. And guess what? That came out in the Epstein files, that he reported Jeffrey Epstein. Yep. So but Donald Trump is fighting it. President Trump is fighting it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is spilling all the secrets about Donald Trump covering up the Epstein files.
Governor, I want to ask you about the Epstein files because they have dominated the headlines lately. And I want to ask you about this because, among many other things, it does bring up some issues about trust in the American system. I think Americans are united in their disgust of what they have learned in these files. How do elites and institutions and the government rebuild Americans' trust in the system?
I think these files are sickening. And with every new piece of information that comes out, it's even more grotesque and offensive. I think there needs to be accountability for what happened as to why it took so long for people to get an understanding of just the depth of this heinous behavior. And frankly, I think there needs to be accountability. I think part of the reason, if I think there needs to be accountability for anybody who was in those files, and I do not care. I think if you are found guilty of doing these horrific things to these children, I do not care your background nor political affiliation. Justice has to be served. And justice has to be served for these little girls. The people who their lives have been shattered. And so I think part of the reason, part of the break of trust that people have is they're like, we've known about these things for a long period of time. And how many people have gone to jail for it? How many people have been arrested?
A woman, Ghislaine Maxwell.
One person. How many people have even been questioned? So I understand the frustration. I have it too. Because the lack of accountability, the lack of transparency, and frankly, the lack of justice that we have seen from this has been staggering. And so I stand with the many, many Americans who say there needs to be accountability for what happened to these children. And I don't care where it leads, and I don't care who is responsible. If you are a person who's found guilty of these heinous actions, you must meet justice.
Governor, I want to ask you about the...
This morning, former President Barack Obama breaking his silence after President Trump's blatantly racist post earlier this month depicting him and the former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes.
I think it's important to recognize that the majority of the American people find this behavior deeply troubling.
Obama over the weekend calling the Trump administration shameless, saying they don't respect the presidency.
There's this sort of clown show that's happening in social media and on television. And what is true is that there doesn't seem to be any shame about this among people who used to feel like you had to have some sort of decorum and a sense of propriety and respect for the office, right? So that's been lost.
Obama's reaction coming more than a week after both Republicans and Democrats condemned that post. The White House initially defended it, calling it fake outrage. But the criticism only grew. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, the Senate's only black Republican, calling the president's post the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi writing, "This is totally unacceptable." The president later deleted the post 12 hours later. The administration later telling ABC News a White House staffer erroneously made the post. And then on Thursday, a week after that video was posted, President Trump telling reporters he had not disciplined the staffer. And despite lawmakers on both sides calling on the president to apologize, the president refusing.
No, I didn't make a mistake.
So Obama says this is all a distraction. He said that both he and the former First Lady still travel the country and that they still believe in kindness, decency, and courtesy.
Again, yes, this is a distraction of what's really going on. The Epstein files, again, everything that happens is for a reason. They're throwing us off. Even that's why Obama didn't immediately respond to this, because if you respond to something like this, it's just going to keep on creating a narrative and it'll stop what's really important. I think the most important thing that Obama was talking about was, or that anybody was talking about at the time, was the Epstein files. But this racist tweet took over liberal media, and I really thought that was dumb as hell. Like, why would y'all take y'all focus off of the Epstein files to speak about a stupid tweet? Like, that tweet held no weight. Again, it was only brought back up a few days ago because Obama spoke up on it, and I was supposed to do this a few days ago, but here we are today talking about it. Oh well. And again, it was a terrible mistake. That just goes to show that Donald Trump doesn't really pay attention to what he actually posts, and we know this. But that's just the things that he posts as a video. That was also done by somebody else. We don't know if he screen recorded that himself or somebody sent it to him from a screen recording. But what I do know is the other vile things that he posts is just as bad. I mean, when people, the things he says about people when they pass, when they die, it's like, but that comes from the president. So we can't be shocked when he retweets something and then says it's from the Lion King. No, it wasn't from the Lion King. The song was from the Lion King. The video was created by somebody. So let's not say it was just from the Lion King. It wasn't from the Lion King.
There's this sort of clown show that's happening in social media and on television. There doesn't seem to be any shame about this among people who used to feel like you had to have some sort of decorum and a sense of propriety and respect for the office, right? So that's been lost. There's this.
The 44th president, Barack Obama, on what he believes the 45th and 47th president, that would be Donald Trump, of course, has done to the dignity of that office. The comments are the first that Obama has made since President Trump reposted a video of him and the former First Lady as dancing apes. Here's Weijia Zhang.
Former President Obama has broken his silence nearly 2 weeks after President Trump posted a video that included an animation of the Obamas' faces transposed onto the bodies of dancing cartoon apes.
The majority of the American people find this behavior deeply troubling.
On a weekend podcast, he said those in the White House appear less disturbed.
There doesn't seem to be any shame about this among people who used to feel like you had to have some sort of decorum and a sense of propriety and respect for the office, right? So that's been lost.
The administration's initial response to the racist post came from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who said, "Please stop the fake outrage." But after a flurry of Republican leaders spoke out against the post, the White House blamed a staffer and removed it.
Have you fired or disciplined that staffer who posted the video from your account that included the Obamas?
No, I haven't. That was a video on, as you know, voter fraud. And fairly long video, and they had a little piece and had to do with the Lion King.
In a town hall that aired Sunday on CBS, Maryland Governor Wes Moore also spoke about the video and addressed whether he believes Trump is a racist.
I think the question of is he a racist should be posed to him, but frankly, I think his actions probably give the answer before he even has a chance to answer it himself.
In a new statement tonight, the White House accuses Governor Moore of trying to incite division with those comments and says no one has done more for the black community than Trump. Tony.
Weijia, while we have you, leaving that subject but sticking with President Obama and this podcast, he also said on that podcast that aliens are real. Do tell us more.
When I was president of the United States, I suppose I could have simply unilaterally ordered the military to, go into some red state and harass and intimidate a governor there, or cut off funding for states that didn't vote for me. I could have exercised that prerogative, but that is contrary to how I think our democracy is supposed to work. And I think we shouldn't get discouraged by the fact that we have a tougher job. What we should do is expect that our side is smart enough to figure it out. When I was
President Obama is the last president that we had that could speak in complete sentences. What the hell?
Have you fired or disciplined that staffer who posted the video from your account that included the Obamas?
No, I haven't. That was a video on, as you know, voter fraud. and fairly long video, and they had a little piece and had to do with the Lion King. It's been very well, it's been shown all over the place long before that was posted. But that was a very strong, and I'm sure you saw it, a very strong piece on voter fraud. And the piece that you're talking about was all over the place many times, I believe for years. Yeah, please.
But just because it had already been out, it wasn't right then. It didn't make it right later. And today, it's still not right. But because it came across your social media feed is the problem, sir. That's the problem. It's not where the video was played, who made the video. Well, it is where the video was played on your social media. That is the problem. That shouldn't have happened. Your social media is supposed to be better than that. The people, and the fact that you haven't fired a person who put that video out just goes to show that like let's just say it was a porn clip at the end of that video. Let's just say it was a porn clip. Let's not even say that it was a video of Obama as a monkey. If it was a porn clip, then what? We will be calling you a whore? A horny toad? Would this further implicate you on not being able to control your sexual desires and would have you on the Epstein's list for real? That's what I'm saying. It just doesn't. It's only because it was shared by your platform, sir. It just don't make no sense. It doesn't matter. The staffer's name is Donald. You know what I'm saying? That's his initials is DT. That's who shared it. And they just don't want to tell y'all the person who shared it. His initials is DT. That's been exposed.
Just days after President Trump posted that blatantly racist video, former President Barack Obama is now breaking his silence.
What's your reaction to that video?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where either because the time zone changed or because we were so busy, the controversy had started and then died out by the time I even paid attention to it. You know, the president said a staffer posted a video. He hadn't even watched the whole thing. When he watched the whole thing, he took it down. It's not a real controversy. We have much more real problems to focus on.
Should he apologize for that, sir?
Should he apologize for posting a video and then taking it down? No, I don't think so. I think people post things on social media, and if you post something you don't like it, you can just take it down. And that's what he
said it was a really good video. How did Donald Trump know it was a really good video? He said he never watched the entire video. So if you never watched the entire video, how do you know that it's a good video on voter fraud? You just watch the first 5 seconds. This seems like it's talking about voter fraud. Let's put it out there. We don't care what was it. Voter fraud, put it out there. Yeah, come on, man. Y'all got to do better than that. The excuses.
If you haven't seen Trump's so-called tribute to Jesse Jackson, please spare yourself. It is a 200+ word rant on social media, and while Trump is friendlier to Jackson in it than he normally is to Democratic politicians, it's not what you would want in a tribute. It doesn't go on about how Jackson was a tireless advocate for civil rights, how he was a job creator who fought for economic justice, how he helped feed hungry kids, or about how he made history as the first black candidate to win major primaries in a presidential election primary and was in fact in second place in the 1988 Democratic presidential primary race. No, that is not what Trump talks about. What Trump talks about is himself. Surprise, surprise. Trump claims credit for Jackson's success because he says that he's responsible for renting office space to Jackson's Rainbow Coalition. The idea that Trump would suggest that his skills as a landlord are responsible for a civil rights advocate is especially cruelly ironic, given that Trump was caught by the feds committing racial housing discrimination. He and his father refused to rent apartments to people of color, and in fact would mark their applications with a C to denote that they were people of color not to be rented to. I personally interviewed a woman who was denied an apartment in a Trump building, told that there were no vacancies, when then that very apartment was offered to a white applicant of similar financial status. This is Mae Wiggins. She actually participated in a sting that helped catch Trump in this housing discrimination scheme. So, yeah, Trump also used his tribute to Jesse Jackson to again attack Barack Obama. We have a president who, even when he is trying to honor another person and honor his legacy, is simply incapable of honoring anyone other than himself.
Yeah, so Obama, they put out a press release. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but just his tweet alone says, Michelle and I are deeply saddened to hear about the passing of a true giant, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. We will always be grateful for Jesse's lifetime of service and the friendship our families share. We stood on his shoulders. We send our deepest condolences to the Jackson family and everyone in Chicago and beyond who knew and loved him. That was that was Barack. Now, let me see here. Now let's see what Trump said. I'm gonna read. Trump said, the Reverend Jesse Jackson is dead at 84. I knew him well long before becoming president. He was a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. He was very gregarious, someone who truly loved people, despite the fact that I'm falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics of the radical left, Democrats all. It was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. I provided office space for him and his Rainbow Coalition for years. In the Trump building at 40 Wall Street, responded to his request for help in getting criminal justice reform passed and signed when no other president would even try. Single-handedly pushed and passed long-term funding for historically black colleges and universities, which Jesse loved, but also which other presidents would not do. Responded to Jesse's support for opportunity zones, the single most successful economic development package yet approved for black business, men and women, and much more. Jesse was a force of nature like few others before him. He had much to do with the election without acknowledgement or credit of Barack Hussein Obama, a man who Jesse could not stand. He loved his family greatly, and to them I send my deepest sympathies and condolences. Jesse will be missed. This is hilarious.
Trump just said Jesse Jackson did not like Barack Hussein Obama, trying to start more shit between people, and basically saying my condolences to Jesse Jackson and his family, but Jesse did not like Barack Obama. Now, this is some bullshit he's trying to kick off just to get attention and away from Epstein. So don't go for it. Truth is, yeah, Jesse did have some issues with Obama, but we all did. And Obama had issues with Jesse, and they did. But it wasn't a major thing. It wasn't a thing that was outed like that. So basically, he's trying to kick off any controversy to ignore Epstein, and we ain't gonna let him. Stick to the survivors. Stick on spreading word about the Epstein list, and when you ain't doing that, spread word about the ICE atrocities.
Facts.
And there's this.
Former Prince Andrew arrested by the police there, related to something with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you think people in this country at some point, associates of Jeffrey Epstein, will wind up in handcuffs too?
Well, I'm the expert in a way because I've been totally exonerated. That's very nice. So I can actually speak about it very nicely. I think it's a shame. I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. It's a very, very sad. To me, it's a very sad thing. When I see that, it's a very sad thing to see it and to see what's going on with his brother, who's obviously coming to our country very soon, and he's a fantastic man, the king. So I think it's a very sad thing. It's really interesting because nobody used to speak about Epstein when he was alive, but now they speak. But I'm the one that can talk about it because I've been totally exonerated. I did nothing. In fact, the opposite. He was against me. He was fighting me in the election, which I just found out through the last 3 million pages of documents.
Exonerated? Who said this man was exonerated? Oh my God. Some of my best friends are black. Jesse despised Trump. Hey, listen. if Jesse was Trump's one black friend, that was not the one, okay? It's a lot of things coming out about Jesse Jackson, okay? But anyway, Trump being exonerated is crazy work. I wonder, why didn't the media say, exonerated by who, sir? Like, who exonerated you? Like, can you give us a name?
How did the King's brother end up being arrested? We do know that it comes after a police investigation into Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's role as a trade envoy, so he would represent the UK on trade missions. In 2011, he gave up that role after his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein came to light. There was a huge amount of public criticism around that. In January of this year, King Charles evicted Andrew from his mansion on the Windsor estate and relocated him to a private estate in Norfolk, and that's where he was arrested by Thames Valley Police. But this is a long, complicated case, and it is overshadowing anything that the British monarchy does. We did get a statement from the King which came remarkably quickly and shows how seriously he's been taking this. He said, "I've learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor," so not referring to him as his brother, really trying to distance himself as much as possible from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He says, "What now follows is the full and fair, proper process by which this issue is investigated." That's extremely important. He's suggesting it should be done in the appropriate manner by the appropriate authorities. I have been told by a source that the King wasn't informed that this arrest was going to take place, so he was as caught out by it as everyone else is. In this, the King says, as I've said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. So the King making clear that what's most important here is the police investigation, and he's reminding everyone that it's the victims and the survivors that everyone needs to think of first. Effectively, Andrew is the last person we should be thinking of in this situation. So this is the King trying to separate his professional role from his personal relationships.
Since the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, many Americans are now demanding that similar action happen in the United States. Jeffrey Epstein operated primarily in the US. Many of his alleged victims were American. His financial networks, properties, social connections, much of it was US-based. Yet no American citizen, apart from Epstein himself and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, have been held criminally responsible for anything. Andrew has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in a public office, not sexual offences, and he has strenuously denied any any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. In the United States, some prominent individuals have lost their jobs and their reputations. Yet, despite the release of the Epstein files, we don't seem to be any closer to anyone in the US being arrested or tried for abusing Epstein's victims. Prosecutors say there is not enough evidence in the files to pursue charges against any of Epstein's co-conspirators. But lawmakers who are investigating Epstein's crimes say if a former prince can be arrested, that makes them even more determined to pursue justice in America. Since the arrest...
Yeah, I think there will be, like I said, again, Prince Andrew has not been arrested for what is being said that he had relations with a young woman, and that the woman who is in the FBI files saying that he assaulted her. He's not been arrested for that. He's been arrested because in those emails, he shared some secret information with Epstein, or possibly shared some secret information with Epstein. So, you know.
There you go.
This is just him leaving the police station. Nothing really much to see here.
Well, you would think he now is finding himself face to face with the reality of the fact that he is no longer in the privileged position he was in before. Yes, he is arrogant. He always has been very stuck up on his status, very self-assured, pompous to many of the people around him, and some would say rather rude on occasions. He has been used to a life in which everyone gives him what he wants and jumps when he says jump. Now he is being ordered, one assumes, to do whatever the police are saying he must do. You can imagine the situation he must find himself in at a police station. It's something he would never have experienced in his life, and it would be his worst nightmare as well, I think. You would think eventually this has brought him down a peg or two or three. But I wouldn't bet on it, because he is a proud man, and he is, as he says, protesting thus far as we know, his innocence in all wrongdoing. I imagine he now has a solicitor at his side. And I imagine at the palace they are considering what they can and cannot say, but I think they probably will say nothing, because you remember that justice is carried out in the name of the king, and so I think he has no option here but to step back very clearly from this situation and let the police do their work.
We're hearing that Buckingham Palace was not informed about this operation beforehand. It seems that King Charles learned about his brother being arrested in much the same way as the rest of us, even though this was happening on his private estate in Sandringham. And we are in the extraordinary situation of standing by as British police search properties belonging to King Charles. Remember, Andrew lost the lease on Royal Lodge, where he lived on the Windsor estate, as a result of this latest release of Epstein files, the embarrassment that was causing. He lost his titles, of course. He was basically sent into exile out in Norfolk, which is miles away from where we are here in London, and Windsor, which is not far from London. And so now we're in the situation where the King's private estate, where Andrew was living, is being searched by police. Like I said, we do not have the details on what their case is against him, but it does seem to surround these allegations that he forwarded sensitive government material to Jeffrey Epstein when he was trade envoy for more than a decade. The next steps will presumably be that he is bailed at some point. He will leave police custody. Will he make bail? That's the big question. I mean, I cannot answer these questions at this point. We will have to wait to see what the police issue in terms of a statement. They have been very careful here. They have not even named Andrew specifically. They said only a man in his 60s was arrested this morning. He is, by the way, 66, and it is his birthday today. And so we will wait for the police to issue a statement, and the Crown Prosecution Service, presumably, if charges are brought, they will list the charges that they will bring against him, and then we'll have to see if he pleads in some way or if he defends himself. He presumably has some kind of legal representation currently in prison. He may well choose to issue a statement of his own. What is clear is that he is now a private citizen. The palace has cut ties with Andrew in pretty much every way possible. And I think King Charles's personal statement this morning, not a statement on behalf of the palace, but a statement from King Charles himself, was meant to show that everyone in the royal family, the working members of the royal family, Charles, William, Kate, Prince Edward, very much on the side of the public in this and of law enforcement rather than Andrew. As we're hearing.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot more of this in the upcoming days. I think after this arrest, we're gonna see a domino effect of the pressure coming down to arrest people or find something to bring these people, to get them to testify. You have to bring them under some type of charge to get them under oath. Once you get them under oath, and Prince Andrew will not speak to the press. You have the right to remain silent, and he's going to invoke that right. But I don't think anything. I think you will start to see people getting arrested for the minorest things they have to do, and I think that's what the FBI is trying to do, or maybe not trying to do. I don't know, because it seems like the FBI in America are fighting tooth and nail to sweep this under the rug as fast as possible. They're not trying to convict anybody. They're not trying to arrest anybody, because people should be arrested. People should be arrested by now. I mean, there's plenty of evidence, not just a lot of hearsay. There's emails, there's flight logs. Release the flight logs. And remember that was a big thing like 2 years ago. Like we want to see the flight logs. We want to see who's on the flight logs. Where are the flight logs? I haven't heard the flight logs one time.
I think it's important to be quite clear about why we think Andrew has been arrested. It is not to do with the allegations that Virginia Giuffre made about being trafficked to Andrew for sex. That is not what this is about. This is about communication that Andrew is alleged to have made with Jeffrey Epstein when he was trade envoy. This is emails that came out in the Department of Justice Epstein file release, which suggests that Andrew was sharing sensitive government information with Jeffrey Epstein. So that is a misconduct in public office offence, and that is why the police presumably have arrested Andrew today. Now, it obviously speaks to a wider issue, which is how much Andrew was in touch with Epstein. He told Emily Maitlis in that disastrous 2019 interview that he cut all communication off with Epstein. Clearly that is not true. If you were to believe these emails, he was in touch with him a lot longer than that. The 2010 emails from Andrew were well after Epstein had already been convicted of soliciting sex from a minor. We have to wait and see exactly what the charges are. If they're brought to him, one imagines that will be the Crown Prosecution Service who will publish their charges against Andrew.
And I think they need to start decoding a lot of those emails and unredact a lot of those emails, because I get the victims' names. The victims' names, no. But there's a lot of stuff. And not only that, not only just those emails, it's other people's emails. People are trying to wipe their emails right now. They've been wiping their emails for years now since Epstein. Anything that had to do with Epstein, I think it'll be harder and harder to find, because of how long they've taken to go after some of these people. They should have took over a lot of these people's servers a long time ago when they first had Epstein. After the first case of Epstein, a lot of these people, once the FBI started bringing up these people, they should have been going after their emails. I mean, you already had the Clintons' emails, so that should be easy, right? Because you already had the Clintons' emails. But then there's, the Chris Tuckers, the Prince Andrew. Somebody was talking about Harry. Everybody was saying Prince Harry at one point, but it wasn't Prince Harry. It was Prince Andrew. Like, Prince Harry's a young man. He wasn't over there. So yeah, it was the Prince. Everybody assumed it was Prince and Prince Harry, which they're young. So now that it's all coming out that it was Andrew, I think that makes a little bit more sense. But it's what was being traded. Now think about it. If they're selling top secrets and trade secrets, that could have made a lot of those inside guys rich. And I believe that's what it was. It was to make the rich richer. And that way those people could keep a thumb down on the people of the world. And that's how they kept their fortunes to grow while everyone else was in distress. And you have overly inflated prices on everything. Even it goes as far as even people are saying that the lottery is a joke because Epstein won the lottery, or a LLC, a company tied to Epstein out of Arizona, won the lottery for $80 million. And this came a day before or day after he was convicted. So why does this make sense? It's because of the timing of the connection and the amount. Like, what did he get paid? What did he get paid? How much did he get paid, and what did he get paid for? That's a big question. All right, everyday people. We're gonna get to a lot more of this soon. I'm gonna try to come back live maybe in a day or two. I think maybe we might have to do it tomorrow because Saturday I'm busy. Friday, definitely Sunday. We coming back Sunday. We ain't coming back tomorrow. Definitely Sunday. We coming back Sunday. Thank you everybody on Twitch. Thank you everybody on Facebook. Thank you everybody who pulled up to the YouTube channel, Everyday Politics, where we keep it lit. We're growing and it's showing, and we're gonna keep up on this because it's getting busy out here. Thank you guys for watching. Y'all all have a wonderful night, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.